James Jude Courtney.
Hey kids.
Well, thank you for joining us out here this weekend in Atlanta for the first Mad Monster Party Atlanta out here. So, and for taking part in this Q&A. I have some questions I'll ask, and then we'll open up to you guys. So if you have any questions, just have them ready and have your hand raised up nice and high, and we'll get to as many of you as we can. But great seeing you again. As I was saying back there, last time I saw you, we had the premiere for Halloween Ends at the Chinese Theater, and Jamie did her handprints in cement. Can we talk a little bit about getting the opportunity to play that iconic character over 3 films and what that's meant for you?
It's truly an honor. It's first of all, it's a role of a lifetime. And a role of a lifetime is something where you have to dig really, really deep. And that's really, really challenging. So physically challenging. Getting my ass kicked constantly, hematomas and bruised ribs and all kinds of fun stuff, stitches and the emotional part of it. David Gordon Green said that he'd only worked with one other actor who could go as deep and dark as I did, and that gentleman ended up in a psych ward for 2 months. He had a psychotic break. So the place I go, but I use a technique. I don't mean to influence anybody's philosophy, but personally I use a blue ring of protection from Archangel Michael. I protect myself energetically, and then I use a breathing technique taught to me by a guy named Max Strom. So I breathe the character into me, and then I exhale him. So the opportunity to play something that deep, and then for 3 films in a row to work with David Gordon Green and Jamie and Chris Nelson and Michael Simmons, the insanely talented cinematographer, director of photography. To have the opportunity to do that is, wow. It's like, you look at it and go, or I look at it and go, I must have fucking done something right, man. I feel really, really blessed and honored.
Can you talk a little bit about being cast in a role, what that process was like for coming on board for the first movie, and at what point did you know from the beginning that David was planning on doing a trilogy of films, or at what time did that sort of come into play?
At that point in the game, about a year before, I had decided I was going to about 10 years before, I decided to completely focus on writing, producing, and my own projects, investments and stuff like that. I wanted to make my own films, and I felt it was time. So I decided that the only time I'm going to step in front of a camera is when a friend calls. And so I did several commercials and a couple things here and there, and didn't really need I didn't have that desire to get out and audition. And so I was back in South Carolina, bought a place, gutted it, pretty much built it up myself with the help of a retired contractor, and then I got a call from Ron Hutchinson, the stunt coordinator on the Rob Zombie films, but I'd known him for 30 years, loosely. I mean, we have mutual friends, we've hung out a bit, we worked on the same movies. When I was an actor, he was a stunt coordinator, but I've never worked for him as a stuntman. He called me and said, and I knew the Halloween films were being done in South Carolina, but I wasn't going to reach out to anybody. I figured, my attitude at that point is if someone wants me, they can find me. If they don't, So I get a call from Ron, and he goes, "Hey, so we're making another Halloween." I'm like, "Oh, awesome, man. Good for you, buddy. I'm happy for you, man. It's going to be a lot of fun." He said, "Yeah, well, when I read the script, I called Malik Akkad and David Gordon Green, and I said, the script is different than any other. You need an actor who's got really, really, really deep acting chops, and someone who's a really good stuntman. And there's just not many of those guys around." And David Gordon Green said, "Well, he's got to be 6'3", 200 pounds, and he's got to be in his 60s. Who do you know?" And Ron didn't even remember me at the moment. It was my friends Chris Nielsen and Jennifer Nielsen who were like, "Ron, what are you stupid? It's Jimmy Courtney." And so they called me up. I went down to Charleston to be put on tape, and that was basically about movement, my history. A lot of and I have been deeply trained as an actor. So how I was trained, the training I went through, my stunt experience, my fight experience, and I didn't even get out of the parking lot and I got a call from Blumhouse in California, and they asked if I was available to shoot the film, which usually is a kiss of death. Usually when you get put on a veil for a film or a commercial, that means they're going to go with, you know, somebody's cousin Joe, and you're not going to get the job anyhow. But it's about 2 miles later, before I even hit I-26, they called back and they said, "Can you come back? David wants to meet you." And pretty much when they saw me, that was it. It was done.
Cool. And then, so how much time was the actual prep and then filming for you?
Well, prep. By the time I went down to meet David, I'd already done all the character work because, and that's a spiritual experience. It was a technique given to me by Ted Knight, the wonderful, wonderful character actor, to reach into the soul of another being, and once you reach into the soul and grab their soul, then you'll naturally speak like they speak, walk like they walk, talk like they talk, you know. So what I did was I watched, before I went down to be put on tape and to meet the casting person, I watched 1978 one time, and there was a scene where Nick is walking camera left to camera right, and I went, I got it. I reached in, I grabbed what Nick created, and then I allowed that to just fester in my own body.
Nice. Very cool. And of course, also Nick had the chance to be a part, not just the first one of the trilogy, but they found ways to bring him in for the second and third one as well too.
Well, the first one he was in the window, right? Second one he didn't make it through the final cut. And the third one he got to play a character, which was awesome. I thought it was fun. It was very funny, and that's very Nick Castle, by the way.
I remember at the premiere for it was the Kills. It was at Halloween, and everyone came in. He came as himself as Michael Myers.
Right. Yeah, that's Nick.
Yeah. So, having gotten the chance to play Michael over the course of 3 films, do you have a favorite? And this might be impossible to even answer. Do you have a favorite performance or scene in each, or out of the totality of all 3 films in the trilogy?
Well, okay, in my universe, it's one film.
Yeah.
You know, but Jamie and I both agree that the finale that she and I shot is the most powerful thing that either one of us has ever done in front of a camera. We had such a deep emotional bond. We worked our butts off. We were both bruised from shoulders to knees. There was one point where I'm laying on the table where Chris Nelson was putting in prosthetics so they could do a lot of blood stuff, the resetting lights to hit and so I couldn't move for literally an hour. And I laid with my hand out like this, and she stood next to me, closed her eyes, and held my hand. Just held my hand for an hour, and we didn't speak. We just were. So the finale, when we don't really know, is she going to kill me? Am I going to kill her? Yeah. We were really experiencing love, like deep love, lust, fear, wanting to kill, wanting to die, wanting to give up, all these emotions were, so it was a teeter-totter of emotion that she and I was experiencing. So I've never had that experience, and nor has she, and it's really freaking beautiful. Yeah.
Now, of course, the first 2 movies take place over the course of one night, and then there's a time jump for ends. And of course, during the span from when Halloween comes out and Halloween Ends comes out, of course, the world went through COVID. How did that kind of impact the filming and the process of bringing this movie to life?
Well, Ends was really tough.
Yeah.
I mean, shooting that under COVID restrictions was just brutal, and even more so, like my partner Sarah, I hadn't met her father yet, and he came over from France, and he stayed with us in the house we rented, but he couldn't come to set, and that's a pretty big deal to bring somebody on a set, especially with something work that you're very proud of. Yeah. Oh man, the COVID restrictions were it was just hard on everybody. And then crew, thank God nobody. I had to be especially careful because if I got sick, they would have to close down for 10 days. Yeah. And that's a lot of freaking money. They can't replace me. Yeah. Jamie and I are like just irreplaceable. Yeah. And so we had to be so careful. We couldn't go out to dinner, and it was, but when you have challenges like that on a film, you allow that to be a part of the character, part of the work. So, I mean, you can bitch and moan about something, or you can just accept it for what it is and use it. You know.
Yeah. And you know, also then you get past the production side of it, and once it's getting out to being released to the world, with Ends in particular, it not only because of how things were, it was put day and date on streaming and in theaters. So audience has still chose to come and view it in the theaters, and it did really, really well, in spite of the fact that it kind of got a split release at the end.
Yeah, I have a friend who owns one of the largest theater chains, independent theater chains in North America. That move cost theaters about $80 to $100 million. We would have grossed even better, but they were trying. Universal's trying to save Peacock, and their two studio heads who got up at Cinecon this past year and said streaming's dead. It was a failed experiment. It just was, and the experiment, thank God, was truncated by. So I would have preferred the way the traditional release. Let's get it in the theaters. Let's let it run for a while, and then let's stream it, because I really think these movies are meant to be seen on the screen and then streamed afterwards because we love them. Like, you know what I mean? Because we want to see them again, and then we can find more things and nuances and, you know, little Easter eggs we didn't see before. You know, but I didn't get to make that choice.
Well, that was the other shame with it too, because it was announced that it was going to get an IMAX release, and then, you know, for the premiere, that the beautiful IMAX print got screened, but then it wound up, because of all the date changes and then everything, it wound up not really getting a full IMAX release like it did, and that was an incredible experience. So getting to see it on that big screen, and it was the first Halloween film that was supposed to have a full IMAX release.
Yeah, and there's nothing like, I mean, IMAX. I mean, there's, you know, I have to say, there are a lot of independent theaters who are doing it right, and if you guys get the chance, you know, support independent theaters, because, you know, whereas the AMC's and, you know, the big corporate theaters are, you know, still like nasty carpet and crappy popcorn, and, you know, like for instance, my friends at Imagine Theaters, they are taking out 20% of the seats, putting in big comfortable seats that are not only heated but they're air conditioned. They're putting full bars in so you can have a cocktail with them. I mean, so. And here's my point with this: is cinema is coming back. You know, Francis Ford Coppola says it. My boys in the own theaters are saying it. Like, we don't, but we need to support these theaters, man. You know.
Indeed. I'm going to open up the audience questions. So if you have a question, you have your hands ready, nice and high, so we can see you, and we have a microphone that will go around to get you as well too. But before we open up the audience, I did want to talk very briefly about, because you had worked with Ron Howard in Far and Away. Can you talk a little bit about working with him and making that movie?
Oh man, that's Ron Howard. He's still Opie, guys. He's still like, oh shit, you know, he's like this sweet little kid in a grown man's body. I don't even know he's a grown man. He's still a kid. It's like that experience is great, because the experience of working with Tom Cruise. So Tom Cruise, we all the guys that fought as bare knuckle fighters in that film had some level of fight experience or another, from professional Olympic down to just college and amateur. But so what we did was Tom had no fight experience, and what we did was we rehearsed 2 or 3 days a week for a couple of months just to get him fight ready. And when he walked in, literally he was throwing punches like this. A 5-year-old girl could have whipped his ass. But I've never worked with a human being who could absorb information and would go home and work on it and master it. And so we used baby steps. We used little techniques. And my trainer in college was the head trainer on the 1976 Olympic team. Howard Spinks, Sugar Ray, all those guys. So, they have, each trainer has a different kind of techniques, just like an acting teacher or a music teacher or anybody else would. So every single time we worked, everything we taught him, he'd come back and mastered it. By the time we were done rehearsing, I swear, I would have put him in a ring and bet on him. Because the guy is, I've never worked with anybody he's the consummate professional. And then the actual shooting was just amazing, because here we are with Ron Howard, and And then, and then Tom, who's just, the consummate professional, incredibly generous. And then we're in Montana, big sky country. And, actually what happened was we had Wolfgang Puck's sous chef up there for catering.
Yeah.
We were eating like steaks this thick, swordfish steaks this thick. So finally one day Ron has a meeting and he goes, okay, you guys, everybody's tired after lunch, so here's the deal. Lunch is now an hour and a half. You eat the first hour, then take a frickin' nap. I don't care where you sleep, and come back and be ready to work. So it was just a wonderful.
Yes, very cool. Okay, well let's go ahead and open up some audience questions. If you have your hand up nice and high, we can call on you. First question, let's go with you right there with the hat, and then we'll get you next over there.
Did you feel a lot of pressure from the fan base bringing back this iconic character, knowing that they changed the story from the original?
Not at all, because well, first of all, let me preface this by saying my dad was a stock car racer and he was a special forces. He was airborne in Korea. So I have 6 brothers and I. We pretty much have adopted. Well, he raised us. So whenever I get hired to do a job, or when I'm going to play a sport, or I go into mission mode, and nothing else matters except the mission. And so I just get insanely focused, and I never thought about it because I knew that my job was to. I didn't even think about the director. I didn't think about anybody like Jamie. What I thought about was creating the inner world that would allow me to do my best work, to honor what Nick and Deborah Hill and John Carpenter created. That was as far as it went. I mean, I had the knowledge of like, wow, they created something really special. This is my mission. Boom, never thought about it again. And Nick Castle came in about 3 weeks into the show. He and I have never, and we're really close friends, like very close friends, and we have never talked about the character, like not once.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, and then you had right there. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Sorry, I got nervous. But,
That's all right. Hit yourself in the head with it a few times. There you go.
what was your biggest thought coming for this role?
What's that, buddy?
What was your biggest thought when you knew you were going to be in this movie?
My thought?
Yeah, like, I don't know how to explain.
Damn, man, why did I sign that contract? I could have gotten more money. That's my biggest thought. It's all about the Benjamins, bro.
That's it, It's like a big iconic character, coming from the original to now. It's like most people don't know about the original because you created something new, Well, that's the idea. Is I think, and I always encourage people to watch the 78 if they haven't seen it. Because, this really is one big movie in four acts. It's 1978, 2018, kills and ends. And so it's a 4-act play, really, when you think about it. And, and John Carpenter's thumbprint is all over it, from beginning to end. The music, the characters. Nick Castle played the original, and then he does the breathing in all 3 films. So, and that to me, that to me is very poetic because, the breath is the life of the character. So Nick Castle's breath, his spirit in every one of these films is completely appropriate. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Another question out there in the audience. Raise your hand up nice and high so we can, yes, right over here in the black shirt.
Hey, I'm Steven. So I was just wondering, my favorite kill scene from Halloween was the one where you're in like somebody's yard in the middle of the night and the lights like flicker on like a back porch light. Mm-hmm. And that one was my favorite. And then also the one where I just lost my train of thought, but the one with Kyle Richards and Halloween Kills, where you like run after her and she's like with the kids, that one. I was just gonna ask which movie was which kill scene was your favorite to shoot?
Well, I have a favorite kills in 2018. The window kill because that's the way I would kill somebody.
Same.
Though in that film, the bathroom kills were the most fun to shoot because they were just brutal, and I like being brutal. That's part of the fun. It's like being a 10-year-old kid, like getting there and just whooping it up and breaking shit and punching people. And in kills, the Cameron kill, Cameron, the Cameron kill was, I think it was appropriate, and it was kind of poetic and balletic to me. And then in the in Halloween Ends, the nurse kill, the homage to Bob, the Bob kill, because in all the Halloween films, the Bob kill is my favorite kill. So to do that homage, to peg her ass up on the wall like that was, was pretty satisfying.
Thank you.
Another question out there? Yes.
James, of this long,
Scary.
broad career that you've had, what was your favorite stunt?
Well, I think because they're all fun, fighting and crashing cars and scuba diving stuff and high falls are a blast. I think the one that I'll always remember is I had to go through a window, and I knew I was going to get cut. I just didn't know where, and I've had 3 surgeries on my hands. So I'll never forget that because of this fucking hands. And the thing is, I don't know, man, because I didn't make my living as like a stuntman. That's not all I did. My whole goal from the very beginning was to make my own films. So to my mind, anything that I could do related to film was part of my education and part of expanding my awareness. So back when I came up, there were a lot of guys who were really good actors, who were really good stuntmen, and we were all friends. We took some of the same acting classes, but back then, you were like in the 80s and 90s, you were neither fish nor fowl. So the thing was, well, he's just a stuntman who can say a few lines, or he's just an actor who thinks he can do stunts. They just couldn't wrap their minds around the fact that you could actually be a good stuntman and actually be a good actor. Now that's at a premium. Now people get it. But there were really wonderful actors, like John Casino was Kurt Russell's stunt double. Not only was he a really good actor, the dude was handsome as hell. Alex Daniels, one of my very dear friends. Dude could do Shakespeare like you wouldn't believe. Plays like 18 instruments. You know what I mean? He's like, he's president of the Stuntmen's Association right now. He had to make a choice, and he chose stunts. And really, that's a smarter choice because the stunt pool is shallower, and there aren't that many people who are athletic enough to be able to do specifically stunts. Right. Because you can be a great athlete but not be such a good football player. Maybe you're a good basketball player. Maybe you're a good tennis player. Maybe you're, you know what I mean? Yep. But for me, it's really been. This is now the beginning, I think, of my career as the career I intended to have, to play in iconic character like this with the most amazing people in the world. I'm producing a film next year that I wrote. I'm second it directing. I'm producing it. I'm acting in it, and so now I'm getting to the place where I'm happy that I finally got my rubber on the road.
Yeah. And there have been a number of actors who have gone into directing and become incredible directors as well too. So is that something that you can draw upon what you've done on screen to help play out your story and what you want to see work?
Oh, truly. Having worked on so many movies, especially so many bad ones. Yeah. And the thing is, I'll never slam a picture no matter what, because it's a minor miracle when anybody gets a film made. It's a minor miracle, and it's so hard, and there's so many people work so hard. But you learn from the good and the bad, right? Mm-hmm. And for instance, this film, I'm not directing it because it's a $20 million budget, and asking someone to give me $20 million and be a first-time director is just not fair. Yeah. So we've got a really amazing director and one with a really deep resume. So yeah.
Cool. Another question out there before we wrap up. Just raise your hand. We'll get you, and then we'll get you again. You first, right here.
Personally, I was devastated when Halloween ends. It really broke my heart. But we kind of were trying to discuss, after we watched it, things that could happen. Do you think that maybe there might be like a spinoff? Like, with Corey getting, he goes, I guess, loco. And then he sleeps with Jamie Lee's daughter, maybe knock her up and then the baby gets possessed.
Damn, you've been putting a lot of thought. That's good.
I told you I was
That sounds like a 3-bottle of wine night. No, here's the thing: is this is I think this is one of the beautiful things about this franchise and about fans like you guys, is the idea being that we can make these movies and then you guys can start use your own creativity, your own creative minds, and start conjecturing and having ideas and I think it's so awesome that the fans are passionate about this and I love that fans come up to me and go, I loved you, but Halloween ain't sucked. Well, good, man. I'm glad you have an opinion, and I'm glad you feel like telling me. Okay, shut the fuck down. And so, I think you guys know that Miramax and Trancas have agreed to do a series. It's a 3-year series. They'll probably explore some part of the universe that we've never looked at. I would imagine it's gonna be a flashback because I'm already dead, or not. You know what I mean? That's the great thing about this world is this universe or this world we live in is we can really do anything. And I think with regards to Halloween Ends, I have to say this: David Gordon Green several times during the shooting of Halloween Ends wore a Season of the Witch T-shirt. He was sending a message. So for the people who just hate Halloween Ends, y'all just be patient. In 10 years' time, you're gonna be fans. And if you're not, I'll be dead. So.
Cool. And then you had another question over here.
Hey, Steven again. So I was just wondering what you thought of Michael Myers killing that kid in the first Halloween, because we hadn't seen him kill any kids before, and he walks past the baby thing, and the baby cries, and wasn't that Jamie's voice, I believe? But what did you think of him killing a kid?
Bro, have you ever seen a little kid that used to want to go strangle the fuck out of him? Right? Okay, I did it for every one of you people.
He seemed like a nice kid.
Yeah, they all seem nice until they started, right? I just got to him before he started screaming like a little demon, right?
And how many takes did it take for you to do the one shot where you went through like those 3 houses? 9.
And they didn't think they could get it because that's probably one of the most difficult things I've ever done, because we had no marks. Stewie and I often couldn't see each other, but we had this beautiful nonverbal communication, and we just felt each other through it. On the 8th take, they thought, on the 8th take, David came running across the set and gave me a big ass bear hug. I mean, his face is up to my belly button, but he gave me a big bear hug and said, "We got it, we fucking got it." And Stewie and I knew we could get it. We knew we could. That's why we just kept working it. We just kept working at it, and we took all night. But I think we nailed it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us here this weekend and for taking part in this Q&A. It's been a pleasure, like always, and thank you.
Yeah, man. Good to see you as always.
Ladies and gentlemen, James Jude Courtney.